And now, podcasting from the sun-scorched desert Southwest, weighing in at a combined total of 340 pounds, Brad Winchester, Tyler McDowell-Blanken, are Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell-Blanken. Tyler, just you and I today. How you doing?
It's just you and I, man. I am doing well. Some of our best conversations happen before we click the record button. I know that's a great tease for our listeners and viewers to watch us every week. But we had a super funny conversation before this about morning school announcements and I don't know, just the creation of them, the delivery, and these are things I miss. Like, you feed my soul so well with these school stories of just like the little things that maybe seem so insignificant to those who haven't been in education, but I miss those moments. Of course, I miss you, miss the whole crew, over at Marana. So I'm doing so well, man. I'm glad to be with you today, and I know we're going to get into a lot of topics. How are you?
Doing well, yeah. We talked about morning announcements and a little bit about the senior meeting. We had a senior meeting this week. I had to take a trip to the auditorium to spend my advisory period time, my tiger time, my intervention time, whatever we're calling it these days, to go hang out in the auditorium just in case. Our kids are great. They had it. They did not need me there, but I was just there just in case something happened. And I hung out in the light booth. I went up above everybody. Me and one of my students from my Tiger time went up there, and I showed them around and was like, "Hey, check it out up here. It's pretty cool." Turned on the lights, was waving at people. It was awesome. And then they announced Joe, the Jostens rep, came down. And Tyler, it was a pro wrestling moment for me. I wish I would have been down in the sound booth because I would have been logged into my music and I would have pulled it up pretty fast. It could have been great. But Joe from Jostens walked onto stage after being introduced by Mr. Benjamin Roram. And it was, hey, everybody, here's Joe to tell you more. And a spontaneous Joe chant broke out in the crowd in the MHS auditorium. It was amazing. Just, there were probably 200 kids going, Joe, 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 Joe. And I was like, oh man, if I had the music up, this would be so good.
He did not have a towel.
No, he did not have a towel. Thankfully, he was wearing a shirt. So that's good. Yeah.
That's definitely a plus.
Yeah,
man, you were telling me about the senior meeting. I'm so amazed at what you do every day, your colleagues, the kids, and how talented they are. Again, the people, the kids behind the announcements, the kids who are involved on campus, the kids who are just showing up and giving their best every day. Like, man, education is just, I think it's so fundamental to you and I. And in fact, it's how we met in the first place. There would be no GI without Marana High School, without education. Man, your stories from school make me really happy, especially on this week. Shout out to the seniors. They're almost walking across the state.
Yeah, 7 weeks for them. 35 days, 34 days, something like that left.
And this group started their high school experience online, right?
Yes.
2020, 2021.
Yep. They were
the last freshmen I had are now
last hybrid kids. Yep.
Man.
Yep.
Isn't that
it's crazy. It's crazy to me that the kids that came back after we shut down for COVID are walking across the stage this year. That's wild to me. I can't believe how fast time went. Absolutely crazy. And they're great, it's tough out there, and to watch them kind of pick up and persevere. We've noticed a lot of people struggle with anxiety a lot more than before we shut down. And I think part of that is they're just not around. They weren't around people for like a full year. Some of them longer than that, if they remained online for the hybrid year, plus the shutdown before, and then having to come back in person. They just forgot how to be around people. And if they struggled to begin with, and then they went all that time without being around people, it's just that much harder. So watching them try to figure it out and persevere, it's a tough job. And I don't think people understand how exhausting it can be. But man, is it good. It's so rewarding. The positives outweigh the negatives by far, I think. There are days, don't get me wrong, this. There are days, there are even months, dare I say quarters or years?
Semesters.
Semesters. Entire careers, whatever.
It's not easy.
Yeah, and that's the same for every job, you know. Like there are moments like we were laughing about something kind of that probably in the moment isn't funny, but looking at it from a different perspective is hilarious, objectively. And I I had those thoughts when I worked at Walmart and worked in retail. You know, the terrible job going in. I hated it so much, having like 15 bosses all telling me to do different things and then yelling at me when none of them get done. It's like, yeah, you had me cashier for 7 hours of my 8 hour shift, and then you told me to flip an end cap. I did it, and then you told me to flip it back the same day, and then went, "Why aren't the carts put away?" What? I hated it there. It was just awful. And then some of my favorite moments came from that place, and I learned how to be empathetic to people's life situations that I didn't have that perspective. And it's like, oh, these people are just out here just trying, and maybe it's their second chance at life. And there's so many ways to look at it, and there are always positives and the negatives. You can find them if you look.
That's so true.
Yes, and it's even if it's like that didn't work, that was a failure, you can grow from it. And you can go, all right, I won't do that again.
Yeah, well said. I'm going to try to transition this into something that's far less insignificant, basketball on the grand scheme of things. Since we recorded last, the Arizona Wildcats lost, Brad. We had a great episode last week. Shout out to Erica Day of Wildcat Authority for joining us. We were discussing if this is Arizona's year. It's been a long time. 97, they won the championship. 2001, they made the Final Four. And just a lot of hopes and wishes since then. They lost to Clemson, and I was in my feelings for a little bit, probably about 24 hours. But I think I have grown now in that I have a healthier relationship to the sports teams that I root for. If this were 10 years ago, Brad, it would have taken me days to get out of this funk. But now it's total Pinterest vibes for me. What's the quote? Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. That's exactly my mindset now. Just like I know the Suns are bound to disappoint us next month as well. I'm already prepared for it because, to your point, I have so many great experiences in real life for things that actually matter. So many great people around me. So many great lessons I've learned, especially over this last 12 to 14 months, let's say. And by the way, Brad, this week, I don't know if you heard, we are dropping a very special series. Our four-part rock series.
Shut up, Austin.
Shout out Boston. Shout out to Throwback. Another guest we've had on. Great people. Our 4-part rock series drops this week, Brad. If you're listening or watching us on a Monday, our GI day, as we call it, starting tomorrow, Tuesday through Friday, you are getting a new episode every week. Again, it's 4 parts. We are joined by DC Hendricks, a fan-sided. Big shout out to him. We discuss the moments, feuds, promos of The Rock's career, the best and most memorable. And we also get into his television and film career. I know you have major thoughts on that, Brad. That's capping off the week on Friday, but we hope you all tune in. Again, we were honored to have DC on. Brad did his thing as it pertains to the art, the sound, all that he does. The dude creates magic. So we hope you tune into our 4-part rock series. Really, really proud of what we did there.
Yeah, great way to lead into Mania, right? Like it's exciting. Yeah, last week when I said, "Hey, go back and check out the Rock last week's episode,"
it's a tease.
Yeah, that was a tease, I guess, for the future. Because I don't understand time very well these days. Because time is just everything is crazy. We're leading into April, Tyler. We have Easter. As you listen to this, Easter will have already happened. Happy Easter to those observe. Happy Yostra to people that don't. Enjoy your eggs and bunny rabbits, I guess. And we have a lot to look forward to. We're heading into the final stretch of the school year. It's a little terrifying because I left last week and it was March. It's going to be April. It's crazy.
This episode drops on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke.
No.
It's just facts.
It just is.
And we are doing a lot, Brad. We have goals to reach this year. I'm really proud of what we've done in these first 3 months of 2024. But rest assured, we are not alone. We have a stellar group of teammates who are also putting out some really fantastic content. So you know what time it is. It's State of 19. Let's get into it. Let's go.
late breaking news from the world of 19 media.
Okay, join Carmen and Jessica of Small Town USA for their latest episode, The Town That Ate Kevin Bacon. They navigate a bizarre tale in the quaint corners of Morris, Michigan. Shout out Michigan. This episode takes a sharp turn into cannibalism with a small town twist. Check them out today. A small town twist sounds like a lime wedge a little bit.
Yes, it does.
It scares me.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Do you love fantasy golf? The Mojo King, 19 Media co-founder, continues to drop gems on his show, Hidden Gems Golf. Hopefully you saw what I did there. Check out the latest installment to hear his thoughts on the Texas Children's Open. Be sure to subscribe to listen to his insight before the next match.
I kind of want to watch that. I think children from Texas playing golf sounds really entertaining. Hip to the Games, Desmond Powell's brainchild is now on YouTube. Check out the latest episode to hear his thoughts on Nelly's era of hip-hop, the NBA's Western Conference contenders, and more. New music videos coming out from 20-year songs this week, Tyler. Hip-hop is crazy.
Yeah, it's the best genre. There's never a dull moment in Lakerland. Join Ricky, Kwame, and Omar of Late Night Lake Show to hear their thoughts on the latest news and notes surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. It's almost playoff time, so don't miss out.
Speaking of the association, Warren and Cal of the Baseline NBA podcast released 2 installments of their signature autopsy report. I love the autopsy reports.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's my favorite thing that they do over there. It's absolutely great. Check it out. I cried a little, analyzing what went wrong and where the Hornets, Spurs, Wizards, and my beloved Pistons go from here. Pistons, by the way, Tyler, we should mention, they might hit that 15 game. They might hit that 15 game win. I don't know if they're going to hit it or not. They're at 13 currently, I believe, as of today, as of this recording. They might get there. We'll see. Hopefully they have the Wizards the rest of the year.
It's going to be an important offseason for your franchise.
Sure is.
I'm sure we'll talk about them in the coming months. While we're speaking of Warren, a big shout out to him for the work he's doing over at Dope Interviews. He interviews notable figures in the world of entertainment and sports. Check out his recent conversations with Jaime Gutierrez, South Florida's original Dream Team director, and Geraldine L. Porras and P. Frank Williams of Hulu's Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told. Really great interviews. Really proud of Warren, and we think you'll really, really enjoy his show.
Yeah, he's doing great stuff over there. Shout out to Gerald Brown, host of Heavy in the Paint. Gerald welcomed NBA veteran Julius Hodge to discuss his storied career and whether NC State is the best team in North Carolina. Tune in.
What a fantastic career. I get so giddy every time we do these, Brad. Like, man, this is a real treat. It's a real blessing. And these people are all super talented. Speaking of talented individuals, finally, as always, much love to the one and only Mike Steff. He's a multi-time GI guest and fellow podcast host. Check out his show, The Salty Thoughts of Mike Steff, for passionate commentary, the most passionate commentary, one may argue, on the latest news in sports, pro wrestling, and New York politics. I believe he's covered all 3, even within the last week or 2.
Yes.
He and Mo dropped a new episode of Hidden Gems Football, as a matter of fact, kind of analyzing the early free agency and trades going on in the NFL. And Mike started a new blog. Congrats, brother.
Yeah, check it out, please. If you get a chance, go read what he put up. It's really great. You can find it on his socials.
Yeah, big time.
Tyler, this week we're leading up to WrestleMania, man.
Already.
We're there. We're there. It's Mania season.
One of the greatest times of the year. Maybe the
yeah. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, I get to see you one of the nights.
Yes,
really hoping for that.
I haven't been to Tucson in like a year. It is happening this weekend. I'm putting it out there. This is happening.
Okay.
Hopefully, I see you. Yeah.
Cool. I'll set it. I'm glad George will be potentially setting this up this time, so you can show him.
Listen, I deserve that. That's
so funny.
I expected this. I'm not surprised.
It is, but you'll have to let me know the correct time to go because I can't do that.
Facts.
Yeah. Hit me with your WWE question.
Yeah, man, let's do it. It's WrestleMania time. Of course, we got to start there. So this weekend is WrestleMania 40. We saw CM Punk return to Chicago, cutting a promo on Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. The Rock beat up Cody Rhodes in the rain. And Becky Lynch dropped a book and told Rhea Ripley she's taking that belt in Philly.
Mhm.
Jade Cargill appeared in a SmackDown ring for the first time.
Sure did.
She sure did. Joining Bianca Belair and Naomi to take on Damage Control this weekend, or at least, to set up that match. And that's not only half of the card, Brad. I'm going to ask you to make a prediction. What is the first headline that we're going to discuss on next week's show following WrestleMania 40?
Man, why aren't all the talent in the Andre the Giant Battle Royale on WrestleMania card? Maybe that's the first one. I don't know. I was looking at that going, this sucks for all of them. They're going to be in that segment that nobody cares about. Like, we don't care about that, do we? Like, that's a let's have this giant match so the other talent doesn't have to wrestle the night before a huge event, or the weekend before. I guess it would be the night before, night one. Not to get all negative about that, but it just bums me out seeing Andrade and Chad Gable up there among other people. I think it's probably going to be, I hope, this is what I hope. The big talk was about Jade Cargill not being ready, quote, for the WWE presentation, right? Like it was she needs some more time to develop and get ready to go in there. And what I saw on SmackDown was exactly her presentation from AEW. Like, the entrance was very similar. Her pump kicking the ever living piss out of people, it was very similar. Her doing her same moves, editing with a jaded, was very similar. There was no difference between any of that, other than she was wearing all plastic, it looked like. My hope coming out of this is that we get to see something from her we've never seen. And we get to talk about her going like, yeah, she belongs there. She is as good as anybody that's in there. She's put in the work and we've seen the progression. I want to talk about Jade Cargill being instantly rocketed to the top of that women's division. They're presenting her like that right now. I kind of hope they just let her be her. If she's not WWE's ready, whatever that means, because I don't even understand what that means. Like, let her go out there and be Jade. There was nothing wrong with what she was doing. Not everybody needs to be a skilled technical wrestler. Sometimes people can just be a hoss. Let her go out there, flex, kick people in the face, suplex them into oblivion. Just have her go out there and be Jade. And that's what she got to do this week. And I kind of can't wait to see what she can do in there with incredibly athletic women. I hope that we walk away going like, oh, we got to talk about that. The only other thing on the men's side that I could think we can walk away talking about is Roman retaining. I don't think we'll ever shut up about it if that happens.
Mm.
And if it does, I'm not even going to feel bad. I'm just going to go.
Could you imagine if we come on here next week and Roman is still champ? The fact that that's even in our psyche as a possibility perhaps speaks to the brilliance of WWE behind the scenes and their creative, where based on last year, how all of us thought it was a foregone conclusion Cody was winning. I'm not saying that was the right move by any means, but it's been effective in that this year, you, myself, I think a lot of people on the timeline, a lot of people in the community don't believe it's a foregone conclusion that Cody's winning, which I would argue creates more intrigue and thus more eyeballs are going to tune in to see how it plays out this year.
Yeah, it was a happy pivot because The Rock showed back up and the audience very loudly reacted and they pivoted from it.
Yeah, this wasn't even going to be the main event. It would seem. What a time we're living in where this is where we're at. It's it was a good pivot, like you said, it was a necessary pivot, but you're right. The main event, night 2, was supposed to be Rock versus Roman until we collectively said, nah.
Yeah, and it's wild because
and we get this version of The Rock,
and it's the best.
It's better for The Rock and for all of us. It's
better for everybody, and that's why I think what an ultimate petty play to be like, no. The Rock came out and said, "F your story," and then Cody loses would be the best way to end that story. I would love to see that. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm just here for chaos because they've screwed up.
I can tell you are.
They screwed up so much with this story. I think leading up to this point this year, and what do I know? I'm just an observer. I'm not in the business. So what the hell do I know about any of this? But from a fan's perspective, I'm like, the perfect time was last year. And you can say that this got built into something else by accident. They did this by accident. And yes, it's a happy one, but this was not intentional. Like this feud getting heated up like this was not intentional. It was just circumstantial. And I don't know. I can see Roman retaining again. I don't want him to, but where does the Cody story go after this? There's nothing set up right now for step 2.
Yeah,
and it's going to be that
move is he wins the belt, he has the moment, and then
Damian Priest cashes in is what I would love to see.
What's so interesting? We haven't even talked about that element of this.
He has the money in the bank. Timing. It would be the perfect way to create a megastar monster heel to replace Roman Reigns in that spot of monster heel, so Roman can go on vacation after being a champ for 10 years. Damian Priest could take over that spot. He absolutely pisses all over the Dream. Cody gets his moment and it's immediately ripped away. That'd be the next big story. And if Priest can beat Cody in a rematch, because that'd happen at Backlash if that takes place, then it'd be the perfect way to continue Damian's story. I would love to see that. We talked about this before. I think we both think it would have been or will be Seth, but I don't know that Seth wins that, retains. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he retains.
I don't even know if he should at this point.
Then there's also, but then when we really kind of, I think maybe do too many equations in our mind, there's the reports of Drew McIntyre's contract expiring soon. So if Drew's potentially leaving, do you really put the belt on him at Mania? He's doing great work.
Yeah,
all these people are.
And where does CM Punk fit in all of this?
Right,
because Drew winning the belt and leading into a CM Punk feud would be perfect. Yeah, by the time Punk is healthy, and who knows how long that'll be. Hopefully soon, because we saw what happened at was that SmackDown or Raw when he was Raw, right?
Raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The three of them talked it out.
Yeah, that's right. Watching Punk drop to his knees when McIntyre's music hit was so great, where he's just like, this effing guy again.
And then he got on the mat to count, right? Because he wants to be the referee for the mat. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So yeah, so unbelievably good. So I don't know where this goes. I think the storyline coming out for the women has to be Jade. I want it to be Jade, and Jade is great, is what I want it to be. Or Jade is just what she's always been, and she's a hoss, and they're going to let her do that. I want positive things for her because I freaking love her. I just want to see her get shot to the moon here. And I think that's going to happen, right? Like, it's her first year. She hasn't had a match, I don't think, in WWE yet, right?
No. Her first match she was in the Rumble. We've seen her backstage a few times. She was in NXT for a little bit. I think even before the Rumble, yes. but nothing like we saw on SmackDown.
But her first match is going to be WrestleMania.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. With a bunch of former champs. Like, it's a thing that's going to happen. Yeah. That's amazing. So I can't wait for that. Final thing, the thing that I wish we were talking about more going into it was Bayley. Universally, I think Bayley's been undercovered. I think she's been underserved through all of this. I know she has, marketing wise, she hasn't really been marketed the way she should be. Rhea's gotten a lot of the marketing, deservedly so, but Bayley needs to be applauded. And I just wish we were talking about her more. We're talking about Damage Control in that story, but not Bayley and this incredible run she's been on since she came back.
Right. Absolutely. Well said. For me, I believe the conversation is going to start with Cody Rhodes finally becoming champ. I could be wrong. I definitely was last year.
Yeah.
But that's...
You probably will be. I just don't know how long it'll last.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Of course, Raw after Mania should also be a really big deal. Maybe that's where Priest cashes in. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But I think Cody, the conversation is inevitably going to start with Cody, as it should, because it's going to be one of the biggest moments of the last decade in WWE. But what you said is really spot on in terms of Bayley hopefully getting her flowers at the show in a victorious fashion. For me, overall, I think it's going to be a night of reset in terms of the championships. I think a lot of championships are going to change hands. We already covered 2 of them. Bayley wins, Cody wins. I also think it's time for Becky to go over on Rhea. Rhea's had that belt for a long time. She, again, like you said, Brad, she is a face of the company. She's just amazing, period. But for me, it seems like Becky is really riding a lot of momentum, and it's time for Rhea to have a new kind of wrinkle in her story or in her character.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Logan Paul probably retains, but I believe that Priest and Balor are probably dropping the tag gold. I don't know to who yet, but it also seems to me like this could be a perfect reset for those guys. They've had the gold for a little bit now. Again, if Priest is going to be champ, if we're predicting he's going to cash in, I don't know that he needs to be a tag champ as well. So it's going to be a reset of these titles. And we know that this is the end. You know, in sports, we have the end of a season. In television, we have ends of seasons. Historically, this is the end of a season for WWE, and then starting with the Raw after Mania, that is their new season. I believe that's going to hold true for our conversation this time next week.
So I'm looking at who's hosting this year. I can't even remember.
Oh gosh,
do we even know?
I don't think we do.
So
there's got to be a host. Isn't Meek Mill having some sort of?
Oh wait, it's the 40th. We're gonna have a whole bunch of people rotating in and out. I think is what it is. I think it's a bunch of surprise people. Hogan's gonna be a part of it. I'm sure. You can't do 40 without Hogan.
Yeah,
like
Taker's gonna be there for his show.
Yes, and honestly, the Hogan stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I think it'll be. I think it's going to be a complicated feeling when that man can't go to a ring anymore if he dies, because that was like a huge part of my childhood. I think everybody's childhood that grew up in that time.
All of us.
And it's so hard. I'm trying to be better at separating the art from the artist, and I really want to see Hulk Hogan again. I just don't want to see Hulk Hogan again. It's both of those things are true, but how do you not have him there for the 40th one? So. I'm sure he'll be there. Who knows who else will be there? Probably not Ric Flair. But I don't really know. I don't know if his deal. I assume that deal is up with AEW for him showing up now that Andrade's gone and now that Sting retired. I doubt we'll see Flair on TV, but we'll probably still see his energy drink stuff. But I don't know what that means for talent on screen. I don't know. I also don't know that Ric Flair needs to be involved for WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels is going to be there for sure. Mr. WrestleMania has to show up. Maybe with The Undertaker. Maybe they do something. That would be really cool. I don't know, man. But I'm looking at WrestleMania 39. And I was thinking about night 1 versus night 2. Because we've had that conversation. So I think when you're talking about what the storyline is going to be, it kind of depends on what happens on what night. So night 1, we're getting the tag team match. We're getting plural, right? We're getting tag team. Well, no, we're getting tag team match. And then the second night is when the men are defending their titles. But the first night is the tag match. Okay.
Right. Which will dictate the stipulation for night 2. Bloodline rules, anything goes, or Cody gets a fair shot.
Right. But I'm looking at these things and the Miz is on here in different places. And he hosted last year. So what are going to be those breakup segments where it's like, all right, we had a match. Now we're going to have like a promo thing, or we're just going to have this moment in between. I love that stuff. I absolutely love that stuff. I love when it's like, all right, here we go. It's the Miz. He wrestled Pat McAfee for 340. And last year he lost to Snoop as a pivot, right? That's when Shane blew out his leg.
Right. Yes. Good memory.
Yeah. So this was night 1. Austin Theory defeated John Cena. The Street Profits defeated Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and Alpha Academy, and the Viking Raiders. Seth Rollins defeated Logan Paul. Trish Stratus, Lita, and Becky Lynch defeated Damage Control. Rey Mysterio defeated Dominic Mysterio. Rhea Ripley defeated Charlotte Flair and won the championship. That's where she won. Pat McAfee defeated The Miz. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defeated the Usos. That feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does.
Brock Lesnar, night 2. Brock Lesnar, I doubt he will be there. Brock Lesnar defeated Omos with MVP by pinfall in a 4-minute and 55-minute barn burner. Or 55 seconds, excuse me. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler defeated Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalya and Shotzi, Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville by submission. Gunther defeated Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Man, the Gunther Sheamus match needs to happen again. Bianca defeated Asuka. Snoop defeated The Miz. Edge defeated the Demon. And Roman Reigns defeated Cody Rhodes. Tyler, how did these two cards match up? I know it's another question.
Right. Last year's as compared to this year's?
Yeah.
They're very similar. A lot of the talent overlap. I forgot that Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul, that was the match last year. And now, of course, both are in prominent positions. In fact, both are champions.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this card is stronger. Honestly, when you insert Jade Cargill, right, her coming over from AEW to WWE, we saw how successful Cody's been in that transition. I suspect Jade will have a similar rise to the top of that division over the next year. You add Jade, you add The Rock. Let's not forget that The Rock's first time in a mat for announced for a match in what's over 10 years, Brad.
Yeah.
Huge deal. We've been wanting that. We've been speculating about the dream match versus Roman. We're not getting that, but perhaps we're even getting something better with them tagging. For those two reasons alone, I would favor this card. But I think the rest of the card is also equal, if not stronger, to last year's. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos. That was huge.
That was the biggest story, right?
Yes.
Cody Roman was a big story, but that was the bigger story.
Fever pitch level of excitement. Charlotte versus Rhea, we know, was awesome. You mentioned Bianca versus Asuka. There was a lot to like on that card. Ray versus Dom. You mentioned Trish and Lita being on there. Always love to see them. But I'm going to opt for this card. I know it's easy for me to say, given that we're heading into this week, given our 4-part Rock series. But Jade, Rock, the rest of the card, let's argue being relatively even. I would lean toward this one for sure. How about you?
I'm trying to see. Yeah, I don't see anything for hosts, so I don't know. Maybe I missed it. Yeah, I'm taking this year. It's easy for me. Now, I will say that somebody pointed it out online, and I had this first thought because the first thing I thought was really cool was we have Jade, Naomi, Naomi, right? She goes Naomi, not Naomi.
Naomi. Yeah.
Okay. Listen. I live in Arizona. It's not a lot of Naomis out here.
We forget.
Yeah. And Bianca. Mm-hmm. And we have three super strong Black women pointing at that sign. Representation all over the timeline. Now, here's somebody pointed this out, and then I thought, oh, maybe they do have a point. Do you find it at all lazy? Now, first of all, I think this card's better because we now have an almost all Asian group fighting women, fighting an all Black group, women. And then in the men's side, we have like an all Samoan group fighting a white and Latin group. Because Seth Rollins, last name Lopez, Cody Rhodes, quarter Cuban. And somebody pointed this out to me and I was like, oh, and the LWO keeps adding members, but they're facing a faction that is also heavily Latin.
And are we getting Profits and Lashley versus
Profits and Lashley,
Cross and AOP? There's some, we actually got many. Majority of the competitors in that match will be men of color.
It feels, yes, it does feel very much like it's making the Nation of Domination look diverse as a group. Based on how these factions are being formed right now. And I saw it, I was like, A, I think it's awesome. And B, I went, oh, I can see why people might look at that and go, what's going on there? So from an outside observer, storytelling wise, it all makes perfect sense. Every bit of it makes sense, which is why I don't have a problem with any of it. But if you were new to the product, or if you only turn into WWE to watch Wrestlemania and you haven't watched since the early 2000s, your initial reaction might be, oh, nothing's changed. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's a case to be made for, is it lazy or not? And I think this is also similar to when, we were discussing Carmelo Hayes and what's the move for Melo when he comes up. And shout out to Melo and Trick being the main event for Stand and Deliver. That's going to be awesome. It's easy to say, oh, Melo should join the Hurt Business, or Trick should join the Hurt Business, or everyone should join the Hurt Business.
Yeah, right.
So it's a balance, right? Of like, oh yeah, of course,
Cody Rhodes would make the most sense to join the Hurt Business. He's already wearing a suit.
Exactly. So I'm always here for unity in that sense, but I agree with you that it can become very lazy, and we've seen historically in wrestling that can become a huge trope, very very demeaning when that happens. But in this case, I would say, yeah, we're maybe approaching lazy, but the way they've delivered these factions, these announced matches, I wouldn't say it's lazy yet, but like you said, I think you have to treat it with caution, because we know how this goes, where it's easy to just put people of a similar background together just for the sake of doing it. But I wouldn't say it's at that lazy level yet.
I don't think so either, and I think they're allowing them to. I think the cool thing, as I drown, I think the cool thing has been these groups have been allowed to be themselves and prideful and positive.
Totally.
Where in the past it's been like it's super negative and problematic, and we had a Latin group coming out on lawnmowers with
exactly what I was thinking of when I was answering your question. The Mexicools,
yes, or just Farouk saying, "I'm tired of being treated like this," and getting booed by the crowd. I think we've come a long way.
Yeah, crime time, JTG and the late Shad Gaspard. Like, I was a kid when they were doing that.
That wasn't even that long ago. So
now I look back on it like, oh man, that was so not. Yeah. So not what we should be doing.
Right. But if it makes sense, and they're allowed to do it in a way that is preserving the integrity of the group and the people that are in it, then I think it's fine. And I think they've done a great job with that. I'm totally here for those factions, because I would love, because I don't look at that. I don't look at like Damage Control and go, oh, that's an Asian faction. I go, no, that's a Joshi faction. And I can't wait to see what happens there. It's a totally different mindset to have about it. But that's how I look at it. I just think from, like, I don't know how, if I watch it with Jess, how she's going to react to it and go like, why are they, why does it look like that? Like, what are they doing there?
Shout out to Jess.
Yeah. I doubt she will,
always. Yeah.
I doubt she will, but I just wonder how many people will tune in and be like, I don't know who's booking this thing.
Right. My final two thoughts on this, before we talk about our amazing sponsor. I'm still leaning for this card. I also think something working in the favor of WrestleMania 40 is LA Knight.
Yes.
Being announced. Last year, we were clamoring for him to be on the card. One, because he was over, and two, because it was in LA. It's in his name. It was absurd that he wasn't there. This year he is. Unfortunately, I have to sacrifice Ricochet not having an announced match yet. You know, that means a lot to me.
He's in the Battle Royale. I doubt
the battle,
there.
right? Yeah. At least last year he teamed with Braun. Yeah. This year, not as high profile of a situation, but I think LA Knight versus AJ Styles, that also works in the favor of
Kaiju AJ Styles. My God, that guy's enormous.
Heavy, super heavyweight AJ Styles.
Yeah, with a new theme. It turns out he's going to have a new theme.
There you go.
We'll see what happens.
Well, Brad, obviously it's a great time of the year because WrestleMania, but also it's spring in Arizona, which is incredibly hard to top. And speaking of hard to top, we have a sponsor who is just the best in the business as it pertains to crafting your backyard for these incredible moments that await us this spring season. We want to tell you about them. Grand Patio exists to ensure you're all set for the great weather and those great memories that await. For over 20 years, Grand Patio has partnered with renowned designers to create livable and luxurious collections that can transform your backyard into a personal oasis. Their products include umbrellas, gazebos, recliners, sectionals, and much more. Visit our affiliate link, grandpatio.sjv.io/G, I, P, lowercase OD, GI pod. It is case sensitive to shop their collection today. Once again, that's grandpatio.sjv.io/GIP, lowercase OD to shop their collection today.
So our backyard is starting to come together, Tyler. We did take down part of that tree last week. It's why my back is so messed up. My neck hurts all the effing time. However, Jess made this incredible pathway going to the fire pit with something she learned on TikTok. So we're excited to get the backyard done. We're going to have to take out some of the back near the wall and we're going to plant some trees back there, which is going to require a little bit of digging. Speaking of digging, Tyler, it's time to dig deeper. So hit the music. Okay, Tyler, I'm excited about this. We haven't talked in a couple of weeks about what is happening on Curse of Oak Island. I'll skip it and start with this week and just end there as well. This week, the team did some horizontal drilling down in the garden shaft to see if they could determine which direction the original I don't know if it's a searcher tunnel or the original tunnel, the treasure tunnel, goes below the shaft. So they're vertically drilling and see maybe they pull out some artifacts, maybe some gold, whatever. Unfortunately, they hit one of two things. Either one of the fabled man-made flood tunnels or a natural flood tunnel. Water was coming in there like crazy. They had to leave in a hurry. My guess is their equipment is gone, but they had to get out there fast or people were going to drown. It was crazy. They also discovered evidence that there may have been Scandinavians on Oak Island that stem from the tail end of the Viking Age. The total evidence puts people there between 1200 and 1700 before the recorded settlement and the discovery of the money pit. That's 1200 and 1700. Some of the artifacts going back even farther. So Tyler, when faced with having to make heads or tails about something that is just absolutely wide open to interpretation, how do you go about piecing together your thoughts?
It's a great recap, and it's a great question. Okay, so when heads or tails, how do I piece together? Oh my gosh!
You have to. So the question here, I'll give you an example. The question is,
your thoughts too.
What happened on Oak Island?
Yeah.
Who was there?
Right.
And your window is 1200.
Right.
500 years plus.
Yeah.
Of stuff going on this island, and your question is, so what was going on this island? And you have this kind of overwhelming amount of evidence, but nothing really fits. So how do you go about making that stuff fit together?
I think I would just...
in your own life.
I think, yeah. I think I would choose whatever the most interesting or entertaining, narrative is. That's a long period. And like you said, there's evidence and there's there's potential here, but I think I would go with whatever makes the juiciest story, whatever includes some plot twists. And I think that's just representative of all life, where we just try to do our best, but sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes there's these really just tumultuous periods, and yet, we usually come out of these things okay and relatively unscathed. But I want to hear your thoughts on this, Brad. It seems like this episode was popping. This was incredible.
Yeah, I love this show.
1200 to 1700. Whoa.
1200 to 1700. This isn't just with this episode. This is just they found this coiled piece of, I can't remember, it was gold plated something, and they were able to send it into a lab and they got the results back. They were able to it was basically compressed, and it was a decorative element to something, but it was folded up. They were able to unfold it, and it's incredibly decorative. I think it traces back to Sweden, and it's very, very old. And I want to say they said around 1400, 1300, maybe later than that. I could be wrong, but one of them was around 1100. So that might have been it. And 1100 would be the very, very tail end of the Viking Age. Vikings weren't really doing their thing anymore, but Viking lords and rulers were still in place in certain places that were conquered. So it's very interesting. So for my own life, when I'm faced with a lesson plan that goes wrong for something, and I'm like, what happened? What was the thing that happened? Because sometimes it's hard to tell why it didn't work. Where it was the kids were squirrely, did I just not have something prepared well enough? Usually, but sometimes you have no idea, and you just have to sort of go with. For me, I just go with what feels right. I have to use my intuition and just go, this feels right. The end. I don't really have anything else to say there, because it's what feels right. For something like this, man, I'm with you. It's got to be the juiciest story, or at least the one that makes the most sense, the most plausible story. What's the Sherlock?
Right.
The Sherlock quote is and the Spock quote, if you want to go down that route, but it's Sherlock. It's once you've exhausted all the possibilities, whatever remains, however implausible must be the truth. It's one of those things when all of the other evidence is gone and there's only one thing left, and that's the only thing it could be, then it has to be that. And I think like we're leaning toward Templars here, so we'll see. Maybe they bump into the Ark of the Covenant and unleash the end of the world. We'll find out.
I can't wait, man. Speaking of storylines and filling in gaps and creating juicy stories, as it were, we got to talk AEW, man. All Elite Wrestling. Are you ready for my question?
I'm ready.
Okay, let me scroll down my notes here. Here we go. There was a loaded Dynamite in Quebec City. Your man's Will Ospreay and Katsuyori Shibata tore it up. Willow Nightingale became #1 contender to Julia Hart's TBS championship, and Swerve took down Takeshita, continuing his ascension as AEW Dynasty looms closer. But I want to ask you about the tag division. As of this recording, it appears the Young Bucks and FTR remain the heavy favorites to face each other in the finals. Two-part question for you, my friend. Number one, is this the right move? And number two, assuming that is the championship matchup at the pay-per-view, who should win?
It's the right move. We've been wanting that rematch for a while. So it's the right move. And who knows, it might be the last time they face each other. What I would love is, yes, have them face each other and then have it go to a time limit draw and then have them do a best of series for it, because that was a blast when they did it last. And that would give some reason for us to tune into the tag division on TV again. I think it should be the Bucks, though. I think the Bucks should be the ones that go over because they're such unbelievable a-holes right now. I think it would be really compelling. And then where does FTR go from there? I think could be also very compelling. So I don't think it's FTR's time to win the title back. I think the Young Bucks taking it for a while, being maximum douche, and then hopefully somebody else coming out of it. I was hoping that it would be Kenny Omega and Okada. But Kenny sounds like he's probably going to have surgery to remove the perforated bits of intestine that he has. And that's going to be a long recovery. Ultimately, like eating food and stuff is going to be the harder part. But then I can imagine he's not going to be able to take a bump for probably like a year with something like that. I hope it's not true. And I just hope he's healthy because he almost died. So I don't know who else you put in there. Do you put Private Party in there? Because I would like to see him win, but I don't know that I want to see them win right now. And there's just you know what I mean? Like it's difficult because it's like I love Private Party. Do I want them as tag champs right now? Because there's a lot of other contenders.
Well,
I don't know.
We were having a conversation with Alf Bergeson, the voice of GI. Shout out to him always. And Private Party came up in the conversation of it just seems like they're not quite at that championship level yet, but we're big fans. We've wanted it. They're day ones. I really want them to be there, but I agree with you. It doesn't seem like quite. For example, Young Bucks versus Private Party being on the poster for Dynasty doesn't hit the same as Young Bucks versus FTR, even though I'm yearning for a new tag team to hold gold in AEW. The tag division right now just seems, we've spoken about this,
stagnant
on and off air. It has
non-existent.
Right. And for the early days, the first 2+ years of AEW, the tag division was one of those areas where they excelled at, where they could say, we definitively have the best tag division in wrestling. Of course, everything's up for argument. It's all subjective.
Not then.
But it was just
not at that point.
There
was nothing up for argument at that point.
It was a calling card of the AEW, and I'm just trying to track sort of where they took a few steps back in that regard. I want new talent to ascend and have the gold, but I think I agree with you. I think I agree with Alf that FTR versus Bucks is the move here, and Private Party is just kind of just in that mid card right now of that tag division.
2020 2021, it's indisputable that that division was the best division in wrestling. It's indisputable. I don't care what anybody says, because WWE wasn't booking tag teams. they were doing nothing with them. So now it's definitely disputable because WWE also pumped the brakes on the tag teams. So we still have them, but it's not like, I don't know. Their tag teams are never winning championships. It's always the stars put together to be a tag team that win championships now. And it's in both companies. It feels like,
and it felt like back in the day with AEW, back in the day, meaning like 2019, 2020.
It's a while ago.
That their tag teams were actual tag teams.
Yes.
Proud and Powerful, which perhaps we'll talk about later. I have in my What Did We Miss? Proud and Powerful, the Lucha Bros, Young Bucks,
Jurassic
Party,
Express.
Jurassic Express. I mean, they were
Top Flight.
Top Flight. It was, yes.
Plus FTR, plus, and then you even had like, we had with Kenny and Hangman.
I was going to say Kenny and Hangman, which goes against my point, but they were phenomenal and maybe had the best tag team match ever against the Bucks. SCU, the first champs. Yes, of course.
Yeah, there was a lot of really great tag teams that were there. And then the trios division happened, and I think it took away from that because even like Best Friends.
Talk about stagnant, the trios division.
Yeah. It's
why,
been just
why couldn't House of Black just retained?
I don't know, man. Forever. Like I don't know. I don't know.
We got to talk about the Acclaimed at some point too, maybe for a future episode.
Yeah, because they've really petered out too because of this gun stuff. And I don't know, man. I'm loving Bullet Club Gold right now. I love the home invasion thing and getting caught. It was so good. It was so good.
The entrance theme is so good. I send it to you probably about weekly now.
I listened to it yesterday actually. Yeah, it's a whole thing, man. All right, let me hit you with my question as we approach an hour already. This is one of those episodes I feel like I don't even feel bad that it's going to go long. It hasn't been me and you for a while, so this is fun. AEW Dynamite. Speaking of fun and not being fun, AEW Dynamite has seen a precipitous decline in ratings over the past few weeks. Down to 800,000+ last week and then 700,000+ this week. Ticket sales in Canada, specifically, it was Quebec City, right? Not Quebec. It was Quebec City, which is a smaller market. There's only 9,000 people that live there, I think. It's or something like that, or 99,000. Or 900,000, excuse me, 900,000.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I was saying 9,000.
So I got a lot of medication in my body right now.
No, that I got you.
Yeah, 900,000 people is not going to fill an arena, more than likely, especially with AEW ticket prices. Hopefully they come down at some point. How does AEW fix the attendance and viewership issue, if you even see one? And how do they continue to offer an alternate product to what WWE is creating now, so that they can, now that WWE seems to have a little bit more freedom?
Sure. Yeah, it's hard when WWE is truly firing on all cylinders. Ticket prices, number one, as you pointed out. And I love that they're trying something new with the set of Dynamite. Actually, it's growing on me in the first weeks. I didn't know how I felt about it initially. This is not a new point, but it was giving me very much NXT 2.0 vibes, but I've really come around on it. I think it looks awesome, and it was needed to freshen things up. But along with ticket prices, it really it comes back to the booking for me, Brad, and not just cool matches, which AEW is usually stellar at, but really investing in those storylines that, if you look at WWE, obviously that's something they've done well for a long time now, especially in this Triple H regime, is not only the star power and the history and the legacy of bringing in someone like The Rock, but the storylines, whether it's Bayley versus Iyo, The Rock, Roman, Cody, Seth, like it's Drew McIntyre. They really do that well. So for AEW, I like to see more storylines be developed that we can really sink our teeth into. Even if we look at Dynamite from this past week, Ospreay versus Shibata, which did have some history, obviously, in Japan, and then Swerve and Takeshita for the number one contenders match. Both were very predictable outcomes, but I don't know if there was huge story there that AEW fans could speak to. I know for us though, Brad, we were really fortunate, man, that the Dynamite we got was just stellar. It had the proper mix, I would argue.
Yes.
Excuse me, of let's just put on an amazing match, maybe with not a lot of story. But then we also had story based, even the main event in particular. Yeah. Right. That was built up over
the opening and the opening of the show and the end of the show.
So yeah. It doesn't need to go on. We don't need to have a storyline for a year or 2 years, but just over a few weeks, let's really just sink our teeth into something. We got that in Phoenix, but you know, we know that that's not necessarily consistent over every Dynamite. Obviously, you and I are huge AEW fans. I would argue most weeks we low-key kind of prefer to watch it. Like our first priority is Dynamite. I don't know if that's controversial to say. But yeah, I would say ticket price is number one. And then just in terms of ratings and TV viewership in particular, just developing those storylines that are meaningful and will continue to draw us in, because they can do that. I just don't know that we've seen it consistently.
Agreed completely. I completely agree. And so while you were talking, I was thinking about this. This is a weird parallel, so bear with me. I rewatched the Ahsoka series season 1 on Disney Plus. I love it. And I love it because of all the storylines that are in it that are offshoots of the animated series Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. I watched it one summer with Freya, and I was like, holy crap, this is really good. I didn't know this was good. Some of it's really terrible, and it's like for little kids. And then some of it is like, little kids should not watch this. This is bad. This guy just got blown the hell up. And it's ugly cry city. And then the show happens, Ahsoka, the live action, and shout out to Rosario Dawson. It's awesome. And Jess watched it with me, and she was like, yeah, it was really good, but I don't care about any of these people. Who are all these people? She never watched Rebels. She wasn't going to watch that with me. She doesn't like watching animated stuff, and I don't really care. Good stories are good stories. I don't care what format they're in. And I think AEW does that. They expect you to watch the extended universe of things, including other companies, in order to understand their products sometimes. So they'll do the video packages to get you caught up. But ultimately, if you weren't there to be invested, it's harder to be invested. WWE does a great job with this stuff too. Like, here's why you should care about this match. Here's this video. We're going to show it before the pay-per-view matches happen, or we're going to send you the clip. Half of Raw is going to be recapped from SmackDown and Raw last week to show you why you should care this week. And then we're going to watch people enter for 20 minutes and then talk for 25, which is why I usually don't watch it, even though this week's Raw was effing awesome. Like, the whole show top to bottom was the best Raw I've seen in years, and it should still be 2 hours. Anyway, it absolutely should be 2 hours.
You're making points.
So but they're doing it within their own product. They're going, here's why you should care based on what happened last week on our own show, or maybe you watch on Mondays, but not on Fridays. So here's why you need to watch on Mondays, instead of here's what happened in New Japan 3 years ago. You don't watch it because it's in Japan. The end. So here's why you should care here. Let's continue that story. But it's like, but it's not your story. It's somebody else's story. And it's like, I don't know. Right. It's like watching Better Call Saul without ever seeing Breaking Bad. It's you know,
it's with Mercedes and Willow right now, right? The whole genesis was not on AEW TV.
We talked about it last week. Erica was like, I don't know why I should care about this Willow person.
Erica's the perfect example.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and she doesn't watch the product all the time. So, like, why should she care about Willow Nightingale? Well, because Willow rules. But if you haven't been watching, she's just this person that comes out to bouncy music and kicks her leg in the air and then yells, come on, and then goes out to the ring. And if that's your first introduction to Willow, you're going to be like, this? Willow is the first match for the former Sasha Banks, not some top tier name star. It's like, well, no, because Willow's really good. Her character is awesome. She's totally beloved. She can go in the ring. Every bit of it makes sense for Mercedes Moné to go in there and wrestle her. And she was her last match and she lost to Willow. So it makes total sense to people that watch our product. If some WWE tribalist comes in there to watch, they're going to be like, who the hell is this? If it's just a casual WWE fan, they're probably going to go, oh, cool, Sasha's wrestling. Let me check this out, and not really care. So really, I think a lot of it is IWC echo chamber bullshit, but I think some of it could be just, you know, we watch the product every week, so we understand what's going on. We enjoy the connection to other companies, a true forbidden door. The CMLL stuff is happening, and I think that's really cool. I think it's good for both companies. New Japan and Stardom stuff happens, and we're having all kinds of cool stuff crossing over that I enjoy, but a casual fan might not get. The same way in WWE, a casual fan might not understand those factions at Mania if you haven't been paying attention.
Right, right, exactly. But what a time we're in, man, where we have two bona fide huge companies. Obviously, one's
Amazing.
more
Spoiled.
enormous than the other. But yeah, we're incredibly spoiled because there were many years where we did not have this. And, AEW, you and I just are big believers in AEW. And I think part of that is because of the
And
Dynamite.
and we don't talk
And
about it enough, but TNA is tearing it up.
yeah, yes, they are. I'm subscribed to their $1.50 YouTube feed every
Man,
month. I could
Alexander
see the
and
weekly
Hammerstone.
Alexander and Hammerstone.
Wow,
Yes,
they hit each
Jordan
other hard, man.
Grace and Tasha Steelz fought
Oh man, that was so
a week
good.
or two
Yeah.
ago at the main event. Yeah,
Yes.
Ali versus Jake something
Yes.
at Rebellion.
They're crushing it over
There's a
there.
lot to like. Even Dana Brooke, or not even.
Yeah. And Ring of
Dana
Honor
Brooke
is
as
getting better.
well.
Ring of Honor's women's division right now,
Ash Bell against Ring of
which
Honor.
which is really just AEW's women's division, but we won't talk about that.
Queen
Little bit of
Aminata. She was on that AEW Unrestricted podcast. We don't talk
Yeah.
about her enough.
No, we don't.
Come on now.
I'll leave it at that.
She's the queen.
Yes.
Well, going back to Erica, man, we obviously had her on last week to discuss Mercedes, to discuss March Madness. If you haven't checked out that episode, please do. You won't regret it. But we also discussed Batch with her. And Brad, the Batch finale happened. We got to talk about it. It's time for a rose from me. Let's play the music.
And now, for a rose from GI's most eligible bachelor.
All right. Here I go. Another season has concluded. Batch production did not try. Excuse me. I'm already getting choked up. This was such an emotional finale. It was evident. So there were, if we can rewind, the two final contestants on Joey's season, Daisy and Kelsey A. It was evident Daisy wasn't the one. So Batch production did not try to fool us, as they often do. Joey's family really liked her, but it was clear from the first 30 minutes to an hour of this 3-hour finale that there was some hesitation on Joey's part. It wasn't really hitting the same as when he was with Kelsey. So there was a really strong babyface edit for Daisy, though. She ended up telling Joey during the actual kind of proposal, right? Daisy went first, which is always an indication that the person who gets out of the limo first, they're not going to be the choice. So Daisy told Joey, I'm happy for you. I love Kelsey, but I know you're not going to pick me. I've known it since I met your family. There's been something weird in the air. Before you even tell me what your decision is, I know it's not me. Absolute gangsta move. And we really, as Badge Nation, we fell for Daisy in this moment. And she said, I'm going to walk myself out. So there were tears. There was a hug. It was very respectful and very cordial, which I really appreciate. So that's right, Erica. I called it. Kelsey got the final rose, and she said yes to Joey's proposal. So he wiped his tears off. He collected himself, and he ended up proposing to Kelsey. And they appeared at the finale together, kind of recapping the season and talking to us about how much they're in love. Batch did work us on this, though. Maria is not the next Bachelorette. You've heard me talk about her for weeks. She's from Canada. She made it to the Final Four, but got bounced. That title is going to Jen, the 25-year-old physician's assistant from Florida. Really excited about that. Here's my question, though, for you, Brad. As you know, Batch is a guilty pleasure of mine. Also on that list, single stuffed Oreos, Justin Timberlake albums, and I'm sure a whole slew of items that I can't think of right now. Here's what we want to know. What's your guiltiest guilty pleasure? This can be a show, a band or an artist, a snack, whatever comes to mind.
Oh, that's tough. I'm pretty open with all of mine. I'm a pretty big geek, and like one of my favorite things to do is something that I haven't been doing at all, which I don't think working out is a guilty pleasure. Right now, it kind of feels like it is, but I'm gonna say I love me some video games. I need a story in my games. I need it, or I need something to do that's different. Like I love Borderlands because it's funny. It has an okay story. Borderlands 3, I enjoy it, but I replayed Spider-Man 2 recently. That was great. New Game Plus. I'm gonna say cheap, like food that I grew up when we didn't have much money in the house. Jack's frozen pizzas. I love me a Jack's frozen pizza.
I know you do. Yeah. I wanted to know how you would answer this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. One for one. That's true.
No brand named at all in the freezer ice cream sandwiches. Like Kroger, Great Value, whatever they are. They can't be like Breyers or anything. They have to be the cheapest crap ever. I want them to come in the wax paper with no name on it kind of sandwiches. I love those things.
Strictly vanilla and then the chocolate outside.
Yes. I like listening to music that when I play it in the class, people are like, "Oh, what is this?" Or "The hell are you listening to?" A kid came in. I was listening to Viking music. I was literally Icelandic music that I've been trying to do. I have a project I'm working on, and I've been trying to get myself in this headspace. And I was listening to some of it, and they were like, "What are you listening to?" And a kid had the balls to ask me if I've ever heard of Kendrick Lamar. And my first thought was like, number one, get out of here with that. Number two, why would that be the transition? I'm listening to Viking, like Icelandic chant music, and you're like, "Have you heard of Kendrick?"
He wanted to know your thoughts on
it. Doesn't make any sense. No, it was a she wanted to know my thoughts.
We go.
Shout out Allie. Really wanted to know my thoughts. Like, have you heard of Kendrick? Do you listen to Kendrick? Actually, I think it might have been what it was. And I was like, yes, but why would this be the transition out of this?
Go Allie.
Yeah, it was great. Very well versed. And it was funny. But as far as other guilty pleasures, man, like I like rewatching TV shows. I love sci-fi. I feel like a lot of the times non-human characters in science fiction are closer to human portrayals than anything or else, more honest portrayals of people than when people act it out. I think there's something that gets lost in storytelling where it's like I'm watching the mistreatment of this person that's a green alien, and then you watch it on TV where it's like actual people, and you're like, why is this not as authentic as what I just saw in Star Trek or something, or in this movie that I just watched? Helldivers 2 just came out recently, and there's been a lot of talk about Starship Troopers, and I always thought that was one of the best portrayals of Nazis we've ever seen, and it's the main characters, and people didn't tie that together when it initially came out for some reason, where they're exterminating this species of bugs that don't belong on this planet. Let's get rid of them all because they're not like us. And it's like the most obvious thing in the world, and it's a sci-fi movie where you toss that into like a real situation and people don't get it. So I love watching that stuff. And I love me some board games. I'm the only one in my family that seems to love the board games I love, though. So I don't get to play very often because they're more complicated. And I don't usually play like Tyler. I almost guarantee you've never played any of the board games that I'm into that I like. I'll give you. Have you ever played Pandemic?
No.
That's the closest that you would ever get to any of the other ones. So
we're not talking Monopoly.
Monopoly is garbage.
Scrabble's
fine. It's fine, but like, it's fine. Like you can play it online. You don't really need to. Like, do you really need to have a board game out to play Words with Friends? Like it's
moved to a digital. Yeah. It's, I know a lot of people play digitally now.
And it's fine. It's I don't hate it. It's just if you're playing with people that are at that same skill level, you're good. It's fun. If you're not, you're going to destroy them. English major,
which is what I like to do.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do.
When we play board games,
I'm way too competitive. I like playing cooperative games where if we die, it's everybody dies, and I don't feel bad.
Harmonious.
Yeah. Because otherwise I get really pissed off. But I like Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is a like a murder mystery thing, but like you don't really know who the killer is or the ghost or the murderer or whatever it is until the end of the game. And then it's like you have two players. This is what happened. Turn to page 105 and find out what the scenario is. And then your one group has to do one thing, and then the other person that is the killer has to do something else. And you have two separate goals, but neither of you know what the goals are. So it's a lot of fun. I like playing those games with people. Non-traditional games, I guess I would say. That's a long answer, and maybe we added all that out. But I like ice cream sandwiches is probably where I should have stopped.
No, I love it. And I would love to hear what our audience thinks. Of course, hit us up at GIPod19. Favorite board games, snacks, whatever's on your mind, we want to know. And maybe Brad and I will meet you all at the next board game night.
We could play some Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. I do have Gloomhaven on the. I got it. I'll never play it.
Jaws of the.
That's the Jaws of the Lion is the separate.
Jaws of the Lion.
Gloomhaven. That box weighs 20 pounds. And I got it at Bookman's. I didn't pay for it, so that's why I got it. Because otherwise, it's like a $200 board game.
Get out of here!
Yeah, it's nuts, and it's.
I don't know if I'm ready for all that.
You'd have to move down here to play it. It's dozens of hours. It's like,
oh my gosh, I need to practice. Like, this is something I have to train for.
Yeah, so do I. There's a couple of games up there where it's like, I don't know how to set this up. I always have to read the instructions, and then it's by the time I set it up, it's too late to play it. So it's like all right, let's just go to bed.
I hope we get some YouTube comments about this. I think this may resonate with our audience.
Hope so.
Super curious to know. Brad, great conversation. Lots of topics we hit today. What in the world did we miss?
Tyler, do you know what hitting your mark means in acting?
No.
So there's a mark on the floor. Usually it's spike tape, and this is where you go and stop. And if you go back and watch The Rock's entrance on Raw when he interrupted Cody and came out, he abso-freaking-lutely missed his mark. And you can see him looking down at the floor trying to find it. And then he just sort of stops because the light that was straight down where he was supposed to stand in the blue light was behind him. And luckily they have blue lights kind of running the whole length of the ramp. And the tech guy turned on the blue light that goes in front of it. It's not as good. It's not like a spherical blue light in the fog. It's like 2 LEDs pointed straight down. And you could see the 2 different lights to light him up because he missed it by a mile coming out.
This is why I'm grateful for your friendship. I completely missed that. I was just marking out for The Rock being
well, you can see him looking down, and it's like,
right.
why would
I'm sure he
down
did.
At Cody?
I'm sure
yeah, he's looking down trying to find his mark. But if you look, the light's behind him, and then the light comes on him. So, like, why would they light behind him a big circle on the ramp? He just totally missed it. I thought that was kind of awesome. I love that live theater, man. It's amazing. Absolutely love that he did it. But then he stayed in character, and he didn't back up. You don't back up. You just stand there and just, it's a mistake. And luckily Tech corrected it for him. And I thought that was a really cool Tech moment that you don't often get to see in pro wrestling or live TV. Absolutely loved it. I implore people to go back and watch it. I thought that was really cool.
That's amazing. That's hard to top. I have a list. I always tell myself going into our episodes that I'm just going to have one. I'm going to keep it concise. And I never do. I think I have 5 quick notes here. First, the Bray Wyatt documentary on Peacock.
Yeah,
it comes out this week. If you're listening to us on the day we drop on Mondays, it's available for you now. If you're listening after, it's definitely available for you. We haven't really talked much about that on air or off, but I'm sure we're going to get into it during a future recording. Just the trailer by itself, Kleenex required. I can't wait to get your thoughts on it, and I'm excited to see it for myself too. And then finally, or not finally, just a few more, WWE 2K24 is out. It has an 8.0 IGN rating. Pretty strong. I've also heard some anecdotal evidence from one of my favorite students' fathers. Big ups to Frank, who said it's awesome. So I got to get my hands on that at some point. Third, according to Fightful Select, Mike Santana will return to Impact. He is no longer with AEW. I think him going back to Impact makes all the sense in the world. Speaking of Impact, you mentioned them earlier, Brad. AJ Francis, also according to Fightful Select, is inked through 2024. So he's going to be staying with that company through the year. Final 2 points outside of wrestling. Beyonce's country album dropped.
Yeah.
Kehlani, my favorite artist, is teasing a new album. Rhapsody, my favorite rapper, announced her album, Please Don't Cry, coming out May 17th. It's a great time in my life to be a music fan. And then finally, Iowa versus LSU officially is occurring tonight, Monday night, for the women's tourney, the Elite Eight. It should pop a huge rating.
Yeah.
There's so much discourse around these two teams. I can't wait to see a great night of hoops.
Yeah, I want to watch that game. That's I want to see the post conference as much as anything.
Yeah, either way it goes down. Whoever wins, it's gonna be box office, to borrow a Stephen A. Smith term.
Can't wait,
man. Well, speaking of box office, you know how we do it here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, we implore you, we encourage you to check out our 4-part series on The Rock. Again, shout out to DC Hendricks. Lots of shouting out today. Big ups to him for joining us. We think you're really going to love that series. And again, as always, you can find us at gimmickinfringementpod.com. We have articles on there covering wrestling, pop culture, education, and much more. As you may have heard me say earlier, you can follow us on X and IG at GIPod19, Facebook, search Gimmick Infringement. We thank you so much for being here, and we hope you'll join us again for the next edition of GI. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.